They sat across from a reporter who had reached out, her expression warm and empathetic as she settled into an armchair opposite them. Her name was Laura Jameson, a local journalist who had taken an interest in their story after seeing the public response to their social media post. She looked around the cozy living room, her eyes lingering on the small signs of family life, Macaulay's school books on the table, Sue's carefully arranged flowers in a vase by the window, the photo they had shared online framed and sitting proudly on the mantel. "I'm here to help tell your story the way you want it told," Laura said softly, giving them an encouraging smile. "I want people to see the real you, your journey, your love for Macaulay, and the reasons you chose to foster him. There's been so much talk, but I want to bring out your voice in all of this." California and Sue exchanged a glance, their fingers intertwined on the couch. California nodded, a mix of nerves and resolve settling in. "Thank you, Laura. We appreciate that," she said. "It's been overwhelming, to say the least. We never expected this kind of response, and it's hard to feel like people understand who we really are." Laura nodded, giving her a look of genuine empathy. "Let's start at the beginning. Tell me a bit about how you both got here." Sue took a deep breath, starting her story with a soft but steady voice. She told Laura about her upbringing, her mother's acceptance of her, and her father's difficulty in reconciling with her sexuality. She spoke about how she inherited her mother's floral shop and poured her heart into running it, a detail that brought a warm smile to Laura's face. "And then I met California," she said, squeezing her partner's hand. It was like everything fell into place. We're each other's balance. And together, we realized we wanted to build a family, to create a place where love and acceptance come first." Laura turned to California, her gaze attentive. "California, can you tell me about your journey?" California hesitated, a flicker of anxiety crossing her face, but she pushed it down, reminding herself that this was about Macaulay, about the life they were building together. She started with her childhood in California, her time in foster care, and how she eventually found her way to Riverside, where she met Father Trevors and Sue. "Father Trevors, he gave me a second chance," she said, her voice softening as she spoke of him. "He's been a rock for us, and I wouldn't have found my way without him. Meeting Sue was the best thing that could have happened. I never thought I'd have someone like her." Laura listened intently, her gaze warm and open, and California felt a sense of relief as she continued, focusing on the positive changes in her life and the hope she now felt with Sue and Macaulay. After listening to their stories, Laura turned to Macaulay, who had been sitting quietly beside them, his hands resting on his knees. "Macaulay, do you want to share anything about how you feel about living here?" Macaulay looked at California and Sue, his eyes brightening slightly. I feel safe here," he said quietly. "I never felt like I belonged anywhere before. But here, I don't know. It just feels like home." Sue reached over, wrapping an arm around him, and California felt a warmth rise in her chest, a fierce protectiveness mingling with a deep sense of pride. Laura smiled, closing her notebook. "Thank you all for sharing so openly. Your love for each other is clear, and I think readers will see that too." They walked her to the door, the atmosphere filled with quiet hope as she gave them a reassuring nod. "I'll make sure your story is told with the respect it deserves. I believe people will see the truth." As she left, they lingered by the door, each of them lost in their own thoughts, wondering what the coming days would bring. California wrapped an arm around Sue's shoulders, her gaze lingering on the street outside, feeling a mix of hope and apprehension. Their story was now in the hands of the public, and while part of her feared the unknown, she was grateful that, at least today, they'd been able to tell it in their own words. In his campaign office, Terry Brent sat at his desk, the morning paper splayed open before him. His jaw clenched as he stared down at the article recounting California, Sue, and Macaulay's story. The reporter's sympathetic tone toward the couple only deepened his frustration, and he tossed the newspaper aside with a scowl. "They're eating this up," he muttered to himself. "That kind of story, it's too heartwarming, too easy for people to fall for it." As if on cue, his campaign manager, Mark, entered, his face tight with concern. "Sir, I've just seen the latest polling numbers. They're not looking good. That family story is getting traction fast, and it's turning people against your platform." Terry's eyes darkened, a glint of anger flashing in them. Unbelievable. So now people are swayed by some feel-good story about two women and a kid. Mark cleared his throat, glancing down nervously. It's a compelling story, Terry. They're painting it as a story of second chances. And with Macaulay, well, people love the idea of family triumphing over the odds. Terry's phone buzzed on his desk, and he glanced down to see a message alert. Someone had forwarded him the now viral social media post, the photo of California, Sue, and Macaulay, their faces lit with joy and the caption about their new family. Terry's lips twisted into a grimace. The image was almost too perfect, too idyllic, as if daring him to challenge it. An idea sparked in his mind, a slow grin spreading across his face. He picked up his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the number he wanted. I think it's time to turn this whole family narrative on its head, he murmured, tapping the contact. The phone rang a few times before a low, familiar voice answered. Terry, came the drawl from John Littlefield, a wealthy casino owner on the reservation and a significant donor to Terry's campaign. John, I hope you have a few minutes. I think we've got an opportunity here, Terry began, leaning back in his chair. Oh, John's voice held a hint of intrigue. Go on. Terry's eyes glinted as he glanced at the viral photo on his phone again. There's a couple of women fostering a Native American kid, and their story's making waves. They're pulling at the heartstrings of everyone who's reading it. But I think we can flip the narrative and use it to our advantage. There was a pause on the other end, then a low chuckle. Is this the same couple everyone's fussing over? John's tone was laced with disdain. The ones with the boy from our reservation? Exactly. The right-wing base will eat it up if we push this as an attack on traditional values. We could frame it as a fight to keep Native children with their people in their community, where they belong, Terry said, leaning forward, his voice hardening. All I need is some support from you, and we can make this story work for both of us. John's tone darkened, amusement now replaced with a cold, calculating interest. Keeping him in the community would certainly align with our narrative, though I'll need to tread lightly. If people start looking too closely at the casino's finances, we could run into trouble. The tribe doesn't need any more reasons to question where their money's going. Terry smirked. No one's going to dig that deep. All we need to do is present this situation as another example of the government overstepping, interfering with family and tribal rights. And you can play the role of concerned tribal member fighting for his people. John chuckled darkly. A noble cause indeed. He paused, then added, and if we're successful, we could rally some more support from those who care about keeping the culture pure, especially those who aren't thrilled about a boy being raised by two women. Terry's smirk widened. That's the angle we're looking for. We can pull in both the cultural and moral arguments, rally up the right-wing base. I'll make sure this issue is front and center in my campaign. This will shake things up and give us just the push we need. There was a pause, and then John spoke again, his voice thoughtful. I'll make some calls and see what I can stir up. The narrative of keeping the boy in the tribe should help sway some of the more traditional folks around here. And as you said, we can highlight the cultural significance to the public. A boy shouldn't be raised in an environment that doesn't respect where he comes from. Terry's grin grew. Perfect. Let's move quickly. I'll get some statements drafted and you handle things on your end. This story is going to keep people talking and voting for the right reasons. As they ended the call, Terry sat back, feeling a renewed sense of confidence. He had a plan, a way to not only boost his own campaign, but also to discredit the couple that had captured the public's sympathy. And with John Littlefield's help, he knew he had the support of the wealth and power that could make this plan a reality. With a final glance at the trio's viral photo, Terry's smile hardened. They might have everyone fooled with their so-called family, but he knew exactly how to dismantle it piece by piece.